Hello one and all, it's me again. I thought I'd do another video about what would happen if I were president. Well, let's start with, I would want to legalize all drugs. Just legalize them all. We spend way too much money on that damnable drug war. It costs $90 billion a year in enforcement and incarcerating people who break drug laws. I say if people want to do it, let them do it. They may die doing it, but if they want to kill themselves, be my guest. It's none of our business. And then, not only would we save $90 billion and reduce crime by a shit ton, because they wouldn't have to go out and deal, and drug dealers wouldn't shoot each other up in the streets as much anymore. Just like what happened after Prohibition, when they took it. Crime dove when Prohibition ended. And then we would have $108 billion extra coming in new revenue. I've just created, and not to mention we'd have more taxpayers paying taxes from working in the farms and the labs producing all this stuff. And hey, I've just jumped our the tax revenue up by almost $200 billion, all without raising taxes by a penny. And that's a pretty magnificent feat, I think. And then second off, let's talk about what we could do with that money. I would probably try to end homelessness for $20 billion, and then I would try to and then I would work on building a rail system with bullet trains going in between all major cities. And that would be just badass, if you ask me. And on top of that, I would go about turning ISIS into was. ISIS is a threat to the world, to all of humanity, and it needs to be dealt with. What I would do to do that is I would try to double our efforts to create, more Spec Ops soldiers, like Navy SEALs, Green Berets, or Army Special Forces, whatever you want to call them, Delta Force, Rangers, all that good, Air Force PJs and combat controllers, all that stuff. Try to increase the size of SOCOM, so we can have more Spec Ops troops to send against them, because they're very effective against insurgents. And granted, I want to keep the conventional military strong, because you never know when you're going to need them. But all of these wars that we're fighting against ISIS and the Taliban and all that jazz, that's primarily a job. That's a job where special operations personnel shine. That's what they're there for. It's the war that's perfectly suited for them. Now, with that being said, we also need to rid this country's dependence on oil. We are the #1 oil consumer in the world, and it's a very big problem. It's polluting the world. We're having to get into a lot of shit in the Middle East because of it. And I think that we could look for alternatives, wind power, solar power, water power, hydrothermal power, and we can also burn trash and coal. We've got enough coal in this country to meet all our energy needs for the next 500 years. And we're also producing tons and tons of trash every day, so we can burn that too. And then what I would do is I would want to revamp the education system, overhaul it. A country like Finland and South Korea, they both, and a few other places, they all have awesome education systems. Our education system is okay, but it's nowhere near as good as it could be or should be. And I really like Finland's model. They only go to school 4 hours a day. They call their teacher by their first name, and they get no homework. And they are doing awesome. They're either first or second now. They have been in the top 5 for the past decade or so, I think. So that's a pretty good model to follow. And then what I would do is I would create a system for I would revamp. I would try to keep a system for keeping gun laws at bay. Gun laws are bad. I don't like all these gun rules where it's like, oh, you can only have 10-round magazines. I think that they really need to step back on that. I support the Second Amendment 110%. And I love the idea of a national concealed carry license, all that shit. It's a great idea. And it's really quite remarkable. We really need to get rid of all these gun laws because it's like, even if you ban all guns, criminals are going to get a hold of them, and even if they don't need to cause epic amounts of destruction. I mean, look at 9/11, look at the Nice attacks, look at the Oklahoma City bombing. They killed so many people, more, and they never used a gun. They killed more people than any of these Steve Paddocks or Omar Moultons or Elliot Rogers or Adam Lanzas or James Holmeses of the world. And there's also the Beirut barracks bombing, and I could just go on and on and on. And counter terrorism is another thing. It's like we need more border security. And that starts by not only hiring more Border Patrol agents, which we can do with the legalized drugs, by the way, which we can do with the money from the legalized drugs, by the way, we can also set up groups of people, like paramilitary people to go out, private citizens to get together and patrol the border. And they can conduct citizens' arrests. They can, call the Border Patrol and report movements, things like that. And also, we need to come down harder on companies that hire illegals. We could even set up a system, like where if they work for us, for the government, as part of a workforce for like 5 years, they get full citizenship. Like they're housed in barracks and they work for minimum wage. They get $1 and the government gets, $5 or $6 for every hour that they work. And therefore they will basically buy their citizenship. And I think that's a pretty good deal, because they will have earned it then. Another problem in this world that we have to deal with is like pollution, and that would be solved by trying to get rid of the alternate get through the alternate energy sources, like over oil, like maybe trash and coal. Also, there's the Bureau of Indian Affairs. That thing has outlived its usefulness to the United States. It needs to be abolished, and the money should be given to FEMA so that they can work on paving the roads on those reservations, building hospitals and things like that, and generally providing a better quality of life and to raise the standard of living of Native Americans and to increase their personal freedoms. I also think that we should try to create a more free society. Like, no more of this nanny state crap. People should not be forced to, you know, smoking should not be banned in like bars and all that stuff. I think smoking should be allowed in any place where people under the age of 18 are not. It should be up to every individual institution what they do and do not allow. I also, I'm not necessarily against discrimination laws, but they don't do much good. I mean, people are going to discriminate no matter what. If you don't like somebody because they're gay and you're the manager, you're going to find a reason to fire them. And you don't have to say they're gay. You can just say, oh, they fucked up or something like that. And that's basically what has happened in the past. Except it's even worse now because of society, they're forced to hide their prejudices. And therefore, nobody will know. And we can't identify it for what it is anymore. Another thing is I would try to reduce the pollution again, and try to make ISIS was, that sort of thing. Anyway, there's a lot more stuff I would do, but that's going to be the conclude of this video. I hope you liked it. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and if you can, leave a donation. Peace.